Hey, I'm Sarah Kinsley, and I'm here talking with Milky. My musical background was like entirely classical music from when I was super young, and it was all I thought about. It was all I thought I could exist in, sort of musically. I played piano when I was super young, when I was 4. And then I wanted to learn violin and guitar, and it just sort of grew from there. But I just feel like I had this like constant relationship with music where I was never not thinking about it, or was always playing in my house. I was always listening to music or practicing. And eventually, after a while, I just fell in love with pop music and the radio, honestly. And that was what really inspired me to start songwriting. And when I was in college, I wanted to learn how to produce. And then that like spawned so much of my growth as an artist. But yeah, it really started like with piano and violin, everything. Classical music it's like this weird double-edged sword because it's given me like so much knowledge about who I am and how to make music. Like it's the pathway towards chords or structures and like how songs should sound. But it's also like really limiting, and it's really like if I sit down to write a song and I play one chord, to know exactly what should come next or what usually comes next can be really stifling sometimes. So I find that it like inspires me, but also takes away this sense of freedom sometimes. So I don't know. I have like a sometimes love-hate relationship with it. I can't believe that it's been 5 months. That's like I haven't thought about it actually in a while. But it's funny because I wrote all of the songs, and I was sort of wondering for a while, like really what the true connection between them was. Like I didn't set out to like make an album about grief or make an album about like the continuing beauty after grief. But it was just interesting, the process of writing and then producing the music throughout that time period. I just like lost these people that were really close to me. And after a while, it was very clear that like all of this stuff that I was subconsciously saying through the lyrics were either to them or about myself in the midst of this thing. And it's really funny because you do just feel like anytime you go through grief, like it's very distinct to me that I was like a person before grief. And then I'm a very different one after it. I think Escaper for me was really about trying to figure out like the creation of all these worlds that I would go to. Like I would need a place to escape to, and music couldn't really do that for me anymore. So where was I going? And the creation of all those places, it sort of serves your imagination and the fantasy in which you're in this world where like you haven't lost this person close to you or you haven't felt that grief yet. And then when you return to the real world, it hits you so hard, and you feel the loss like 10 times more. So Escaper for me is like an album about that, about like running away from reality and trying to get yourself lost in something else, but eventually choosing to come back to the world and I don't know, choosing reality. I mean, I think the classical background of my music like totally impacted that, where a lot of stuff that I make is very grand and overwhelming, and I'm so drawn to that kind of music. So when I set out to work with this producer John who made the album with me, so much of the like sonic thematic elements were all about like grandeur. So like orchestral sounds and symphonic sounds and like really intense analog synths. Like it was very clear the direction we wanted to go in. So I think we just followed that sort of, I don't know, like thesis almost throughout everything we did. It was just like everything has to be grand or, big. That was part of it. A lot of the songs for me like really start on piano or guitar. And I find that like if a song can prove itself there, it can go anywhere, like that's like the first test. So I usually start there, and I think the production process is a little bit more like distinct for every song because each one has like a very specific world. But yeah, it really depends on each song. Well, it's interesting because I'm here like opening for Nikki, and sort of the process of like being an opener is like wanting to convince people and like introduce new people to the music straight away. And I feel like the songs we've chosen in the set list actually really do that. I would probably play for them like Sublime, which is off of Escaper, and either like Love God or Oh No Darling from this other EP Ascension that I wrote, and then The King, just because it's like so fun and like exhilarating for me to sing and perform live. I feel like the more time that goes by for me as an artist, the music that I wrote from like ages ago still holds true to a lot of the things that I think and feel. And with Escaper, even though it hasn't even like been a year, I already feel that way where I'm like distant from when I wrote it. But the song Sublime is always just, it kind of catches me every time we play it live. And like, I think I just feel like a different person than who I was when I wrote it. But one of the lines is like, oh, the wave, it comes again and it takes over me. And it's the first line of the song, but it's just like, I was going through a lot of like really intense, like extremes with like mental health. And so that whole line is just about like, oh, here we go again. Like I'm back in this ocean of things that I can't control. And when I perform it now, it's so funny to be from a place of stability, to be like, oh, right. Like the wave of like happiness and joy will take you back in as well. And it's just funny to like feel like I'm time traveling, where like my past self is like telling me something and my future self is where I am now. At least it's just like understanding that. And I don't know, I just feel very connected to who I was when I wrote it. And I do feel like I'm having a conversation with myself. I like love touring so much, and I feel like it's been really interesting over the last 3-ish years that I've been doing it, to like, my biggest goal is to make a show that is like so intense and even memorable in a way that is like good or bad. Like I just want you to feel something during the show, you know? I feel like a lot of people maybe don't expect the show to be so rocky and like so intense. A lot of the live versions of the songs we do, like the outros are longer or the drums are like really quite pounding and fun. I just hope that people are like surprised and a bit changed during the set. That's like my biggest wish. I did so many things this time around that actually like blew my mind. I saw a quokka. We went to Rottnest Island, and it actually, I was like, I was about to cry the whole time. It was so fun and so beautiful and just like so different than like the natural habitat. Like all of the animals here in the cities that we've been to are unlike anything I've ever seen at home in New York. Like we just have pigeons and rats. That's pretty much it. But the wildlife here is beautiful. So that was really fun. Like last time we were here, we also went to zoo, I think, and saw koalas, which was awesome. And like the Sydney Opera House and the botanical gardens I've seen. And they're just like divine. I'm working on new music, which is really exciting. And it's been funny to like dive back into it, because an album is just like so much of you. It's just so, yeah, it's just such an intense process, and it demands so much of you that it's funny to like tiptoe back into the process of writing without the intention of like another album right away. Like I'm just sort of having like a very casual affair with writing, which I am enjoying. I don't know, I don't have anything concrete yet, but I am thinking about the future and new music regardless. The Cocteau Twins. Also the Cocteau Twins. I love this artist more and more. He's a Canadian, I think, or Blood Orange. Milk and Kisses by the Cocteau Twins. This is hard because I feel like the answer I'm going to give is like, it already has a soundtrack that I love, but I was so moved by Luca Guadagnino's new film, Queer, and loved that movie. And the score was brilliant. I would have loved to work on it. Or I like loved Pride and Prejudice growing up. So that world of like soundscapes too. Nothing. I'm like having a totally like spiritual experience where I'm just like not thinking of anything. Unless someone's like holding up a sign or like is trying to tell me something. That's it. Actually, the last time I was in Sydney, someone was like, "Can you sign my boobs?" And so, yeah, we did do that. So that was fun. Or I've loved, I mean, it's not a sign, but like I've had very few experiences where people at the shows, they get like lyrics on it. And so when I see that, it's like, it's just incredible. It's like the most life fulfilling thing ever. Miley Cyrus. The first song I learned on the piano that was like an actual pop song was Love Song by Sarah Bareilles. That was like, that went so platinum, like in when I was like 12 in my bedroom, learning it all the time. That or like probably something by Ed Sheeran that was on the radio. I don't know. I went to an ABBA impersonators concert. I used to live in Singapore, and so I was like 10 or 11, and my parents brought us. It was just 4 random people dressed up as ABBA, and it was so fucking good. It was so good, and I still love ABBA. I saw Rain in Brooklyn maybe it was like 2 years ago. Incredible show. A Spice Girl. My guitarist and I, we have these like keychains that we bought in like the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. And hers is like Wild Child and mine is Drama Queen. So something around that, but I don't know how to like put it into Spice terms. I'm really in love with like, there's 2 venues in New York that are like really dreams for me. One's called Beacon Theater, and then obviously Radio City. I just so near to my heart. I really want to. I haven't toured in Asia yet anywhere, and I used to live in Singapore, so it would be such a dream to like go back there to play a show. And my family's from China, so like somewhere there would also just be really full circle for me. And also Sydney, Opera House is like so beautiful. I've watched a lot of like live performances there, so that would be a dream too. Kiss by Prince. I'm such a big fan of Dora Jar right now. I love the new song she just put out, so that would be awesome. There's such a big difference between people who have like really big moments in the media. Like my mind is totally going to Chappell Roan and like how her speeches and like moments in the media have really shifted a lot of like public opinion about the music industry and like galvanized a lot of people. And then maybe more like older, sort of elder generations of people who have really shifted like music business. I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard question. I would just say to like literally keep doing it. Like the journey has been so fun and there's so much more joy in it when you're so present and like understanding even the relationship with like one person who listens to the music is it's just so divine. It's so special. And I think that it's still treasured. I just finished The Right to Sex by Amia Srinivasan, which was recommended to me by like one of my best friends. Incredible book. It's like all about the politics of sex as like a public and a private thing that we all experience. And it's like, yeah, 21st century feminist philosophy. It's really fucking good. And I just started Blue Experiments, and it's really good. I haven't finished it, but it is really good. Liz Harris of Grouper had a bunch of side projects, and one of them was this group called Mirror, and they just released like one album, and it's like 6 songs of like this divine ambient music. It's called Foreign Body. And so I would probably just play that because it'd be like a very calm descent into the end of the world or ascent into the end of the world. When I was living in Singapore, we would travel around to a lot of countries nearby. And so my family and I were in like Thailand or somewhere. I think I was 12. And I had just started songwriting in this like red journal. And I told my parents that I wanted to be a musician and I wanted to be a singer specifically. And they kind of giggled because I had never sung in front of anyone before. And obviously I was such a melodramatic child. So I like stormed out the door. I was in this like totally random place and I was just running for like 30 minutes. I was running with this like journal in my hand and I had like tears streaming down my face. I was like, I want to do this so bad. And that was a very like formative moment for me where I was like, I'm going to become a musician and I'm going to prove them wrong.